Going live, even wachten.
Dus ik heb zoiets, moet niet live.
Go! Hello everybody. I've been a long time member of
my chariot, and after a few years the kids were actually kind of used of being in that space, but there was this difficult age between 2 and 5-ish where kids want to taste everything, and that's not a good age to have kids in the hackerspace, especially if you have like soldering iron and if you have like lots of junk. I don't know how other hackerspaces are, but our hackerspace is full of junk. I'm dad of 2 kids, so now they're 7 and 10, and we are homeschoolers. This means our kids have school at home. Most of the time my wife gives this, it's a big job, but on Friday it's my job, and in the weekend sometimes I take care of the kids. Part of this homeschooling project means that we have to teach a few technological stuff. You have to teach some science stuff. You have to teach some social skills too. And I thought, okay, let's just be opportunistic. And there's also this thing, kids always ask the most stupid questions. And kids really think everything is easy. I mean, my daughter comes to me, Daddy, I want to make a Harry Potter puppet on the 3D printer. Okay. And she makes like a little drawing. Here, Daddy. And she thinks it's as easy as that. So, but kids are just, everything is simple, and they think the whole world is achievable. And this little girl here, Nandi, she plays drums. She has like her own YouTube channel, and she plays metal numbers. So in this song, she challenges girl, I lost his first name, from the Foo Fighters. Sorry? David Grohl, yeah. And he says, challenge accepted. So he sends a video back in COVID.
Response to your challenge. So now the ball is in your court. This is a song called Dead End Friends. Hit it.
So he accepts the challenge. And I'm going to stop for copyright issues. Then this is, this first video was August 2020. So a few months later, there's like a video talk.
Yes!
Do you want to do that?
Yeah, definitely.
So, and he got challenged by an 11-year-old, and he accepted the challenge, and he got really creative, and all of a sudden this happens. She's on stage, 25 people audience, 25,000 people of audience in Los Angeles, and she's playing for like a full arena with the Foo Fighters. Challenge accepted. So, I mean, dream big. Nobody can dream as big as a kid. Just believe it, and it can happen. This is something wonderful about kids. Go away. Okay. So, why should I take them to the hackerspace? Because I love to be challenged. I love to be in my hackerspace. It's also kind of self-serving. I could also go to the zoo, but I prefer the hackerspace. I need to teach about tech, so why don't I just do it there where we have all the tools? My kids love to play in the hackerspace. I mean, there's a trampoline outside and there's lots of space and there's all these crazy tools to crimp and to cut and to heat up and to a 3D printer and a laser cutter, and they love it. They also like to make new friends. So, okay, let's open this event up for other kids, other homeschoolers, other Hackerspace members who have kids, and yeah, pass on those good old Hackerspace values. I mean, be excellent, all that kind of stuff. And so let's get started. Ale, come on. How do you get started? Simple. Don't kiss the children. I mean, keep it simple. Just open up the space. Pick a few dates, and say, okay, this is a day where kids can come with their parents, and you can work on your own project. This can be like a 3D printing project, or a soldering project, or a woodworking project, or whatever you have from tools in your space. You can invite people over, and it's just as small as that. Open up your space and have them come over, and you see how kids will see your tools with new eyes. You will discover what things can be done with your tools that you never thought of, but you'll also teach them how to use the tools in a safe way. Find a few parents, a few fellow hackers who are also open for the idea. Set a few dates. Don't overpopulate your hackerspace, because this will start affecting your other members and you don't want to collide. I mean, I understood that there is now currently a discussion going on in the space itself. Why should we take our children? I'm sorry it isn't happening here, but I mean, yeah, sure. You have to keep it in account. Not everybody wants a kindergarten in the hackerspace. But, I mean, we were all kids one day. And start with those hacker values. Just be excellent to your kids. Show them how to do that. One of my key principles is, if we arrive, it's always a little bit messy. We try to leave with the hackerspace a little bit cleaner than when we arrived. So this is just a small example of being excellent. Be clear about language. I mean, hackerspace here in Brussels, everywhere, I think English is the common language, as it is now. But kids usually don't speak English unless they have English parents or an edge case. But usually they don't speak English. So what we do is we have a communication on the events page where we say we speak with the children in their own language, if we understand them. I mean, if they speak Russian or Chinese or Arabic, sorry, can't help it because I don't speak it. But the parents are there. So the parents need to speak Dutch, French or English at least, and then they can be intermediate. Most of the time kids speak at least one of these three languages, so this has not been a problem up to present. You can set some age constraints. If you say, okay, I put a soft constraint around age of 6, and I explain to parents, look, this is because there are toxics in the space, chemicals, soldering, lead, and you don't want your kids to not understand how to handle this safely. If you have active activities, you should also consider the attention span of a kid. I mean, a 5-year-old and a 12-year-old have a completely different attention span. Should I keep their focus for 10 minutes, a smaller kid, or can I keep them for half an hour to an hour, bigger kids, before we can get hands-on? You have to consider this in function of the things you're doing. And then there's the tools itself. I mean, we have a mill, a saw, a bandsaw. I don't want my kids touching that machine because I would like to have them reaching the age of 12 with 10 fingers. But they are there when I am sawing the blocks for them, and I'm showing them the safe way to do this. So they're not doing it yet, but they can do it. With the laser cutter, the 3D printer, okay, they make the designs, they push the start button. They can't do that much wrong there, but they do the basic stuff. They discover how everything works. If you say parents work on the project with the kids, how far will you let the parents work with your tools? Well, What I usually do is I just ask parents coming with their kids, how much do you know about woodworking / 3D printing / laser cutting? And if they say, oh, it's new to me, I give them like a small introduction, and I'll be around. I'll just keep an eye on their computer, on their working, and see if they do things quite well, and I'll be helping them. If they are skilled, then I trust their own judgment to say that they are skilled. I will always see what's happening. I mean, if some parent puts his 3-year-old or 5-year-old in front of the bandsaw, I will say, oh, wait a minute here. But this is like really a simple thing. But I just do it informally and I talk about this stuff. We always have small groups up to now too, so it's not really an issue. What you should think about is collision with members. I mean, if you have like one 3D printer that you like to use, and that day you start at 2:30 with your kids workshop, and all the kids want to 3D print their own Smurf, and you have like a whole roll of blue PLA, so all the Smurfs are coming out, and you have like a queue for printing the whole afternoon, and then a member arrives in the space and he needs to print something for his own project. All these other people are not members. How do you solve this? Is this something you should agree upon this beforehand? Or the other hand, the other way around. So my workshop is starting at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and at 10 o'clock in the morning, some member of the Hackerspace entered the space, and he claims the 3D printer to print his own Death Star humongous thing that will be printing for 72 hours. So the whole time of the event, you have no 3D printer, you have no laser printer, because he's also using that, and he's claiming all the tools. He can be sabotaging your activity, of course. So you should have some agreements with your members on how to do this. Again, the basic rule is be excellent, be reasonable, talk with each other. But I can imagine that some people see conflicts in this. So communicate with your parents or on the events list. What should you bring along? Well, if you have like workshop thingies where they need to design stuff on the 3D printer or on the laser cutter, tell them what device they should bring along, even what software they might need. I mean, our laser cutter is Glowforge and it works with SVG files, so I'd say then just bring Inkscape on your computer so you don't have to install it that moment, because that's precious time you lose. But if it's not installed, then we just don't show them. Bring your own food, or does the Hackerspace have some food suited for kids, so not only Club Mate, because kids low on sugar or kids low on water are really annoying. Can the clothes get dirty? I mean, in our Hackerspace they will get dirty. Be realistic about this. If you have like an active workshop, you're going to make like a water rocket, put on the announcement that you're going to bring, you need to bring this kind of bottles or this kind of stuff, bring your material. If they need something, be clear about this, that they needed to bring it themselves, because they might assume that you have it there. We recently had a parent with 2 kids coming into the event, and they assumed that we had laptops. No, we don't have laptops for everybody. We managed, and I gave my laptop, but I mean, that's not the plan. So taking it to the next level, after a few years of doing these kinds of, come over with your kids and we just do something, I started talking with parents, I started talking with other fellow member hackers, and I asked, what kind of cool stuff do you know or do you do? So there's these parents who also have homeschooling kids, and dad works at CatNet, where he works on green screen and puppeting and digital animation. So he's going to give a workshop on this topic for kids. I mean, he's going to bring his hardware, he's going to bring everything, and we're going to, I think it'd be so cool. This is something that we would never be able to do, but I mean, we just had a dad who said, okay, and his wife is also very skilled, so the two together will give this workshop. Great. Talk to the kids, ask them what they would really like to do. And maybe you'll have to tone it down or cut it in pieces or whatever, but you can take some ideas from what they would like to do. Talk to other members. I mean, some of them will say, nah, I don't want kids in the space. Others will say, oh, cool, I love to work with music. I'll have like a music workshop. Or I'm more of an artist. Well, I will teach the kids. Anita is somebody from our space, and she makes like this cool artwork with scraps from the laser cutter. She paints them and glues them. And she's going to have a workshop with the kids. And who's interested, who will be there, will just have also this workshop. So on your calendar, occasionally add a workshop between all the other events that are just come here and work on your project. These keep existing. Set size constraints, of course. I mean, you cannot have a workshop with 25 kids if you only have a small room, even apart from Corona, but I mean, just keep this in mind, and sometimes the event also needs it, because you cannot have like a hands-on workshop with only a few materials and then you have to constrain yourself. That's a difficult one. So we have been talking about the event. So how do you have to tweak your hackerspace? There are a few things you could do to upgrade your hackerspace. One of the things could be like you have drinks and food that are compatible with kids. We have water and sparkling water now, and on those days I'm going to bring a bottle of grenadine syrup, so they have like a syrupy water. Have some healthy stuff. I mean, have like fruit, or have like graankoeken, grain cookies, and you never know that the hacker will actually eat them. Also, I mean, it happens. Have a look at your space. There will always be those things that you don't want to see ending up in kids' hands. This really fragile piece of resin 3D printed artwork that's made there. I mean, a kid will, ah, cool, uh-oh. Didn't want that to happen, because it's a really difficult one. Put these out of kids' reach, or even away. Sorry?
Because if you put them out of kids' reach, you still have to tell them parents to
Yes.
not give them to the kids.
A good comment. Maybe there are projects that you rather not show because they might have like a political or like a connotation that you don't want kids to see. Some people say, oh, they should don't hide anything for the kids. I mean, just think about it. Do you want to hide them or do you don't want to hide them? Just something to keep in mind. We all know lead hackers don't get wounded, but if you have kids, you need a decent first aid kit. You will never need it for the hackers, but you will need it for the kids. You will need it for the hackers too. A special one, if you have a policy on protective equipment, safety goggles, gloves, these typically don't fit kids' heads. They are too big, the gloves. You could have like a set of those on kids' size if you want to take the space to this level. Or you can tell the people, bring it along if you have one. Or you could say, we have like a little stock and we sell them as part of our little shop, and kids can bring it along the next time they come back too. I think we should learn children how to work on a safe way with tools, as we do it ourselves, or maybe not. So as an organization, do we want to have this image of being the babysit hackerspace? Maybe not. Do we want to have like a specific toolkit? Do we want to have that shelf with the PPEs on kids' size, or don't we? Do we want to have like the small cans of orange juice in the fridge, or do we really only want to have the macho beer and the macho club mate? And so it's like, where are you going to stop it? I think there's a case for both. I mean, I can imagine that some hackerspaces say we don't want kids in here, or we don't want kids apart from these confined events. On Text Tuesdays, I don't think we really want our kids to be there, because this is like English, an adult version, and there I don't want to have to take care about my kids. I just want to be one of the hackers in the hackerspace and have fun on my own. Do we want to dedicate some storage, like a shelf or a space, to hide the project stuff for this project? And do we want to showcase the kids' stuff in our hackerspace? I mean, I think you have like a really cool shelf there with all the nice projects that are showcased. Will you put the stuff of the kids in there too? Or do you want to keep this like a secret locker? Or do they have to take it home? Just think about these ideas if you want to start this or even take this to the next level. You have to tweak your hackerspace a little bit. So, upcoming events for us. So I already talked about the green key and stop motion event in September. This is going to be a challenge because the day before that we're having Software Freedom Day. So I hope we will have the space clean. In October, a former member will do something with sound and music. In December and then November maybe, we will be creating crystals, not crystal meth, crystals, in a pot. And this is a more chemistry-like project. So I already talked about the artwork with scraps on the laser cutter, not really defined as a date yet. And all the other dates, so we have once a month this gathering on Sunday from 2:30 till 5:30. Well, just work on your other projects. So if you have like your kids working on creating a small bicycle in wood, or I want to make like a box or whatever, come over, work on this project with your kids together, and it's one of the events. You have kids, but you also have teenagers. I mean, 16-year-olds, are they welcome on your workshop on KiCad? Are they welcome on your laser cutting introductions or on your hackathons? And are you thinking about them too? Because we're like a bunch of grumpy old geeks maybe, and these younger guys, are they welcome? I don't know. I think it could keep it in mind. So these are our events, how I try to think about it. So now, some showcases. My daughter broke a plate. And so in Japan there's like Kintsugi. This is the art of fixing something with gold powder in your pasta and not hiding the crevice, but really emphasizing it. So making it very visible. Well, we tried the same concept, but we didn't have gold. So we used our hot glue. And the kids learned like a few things, that hot glue is hot. That you really have to be quick if you want to use the hot glue because it cools down quickly. So they learn how to work with these tools in a very practical way. My youngest daughter saw all these colorful wires hanging in the electronics lab. Wow, all those colors! I want to make a bracelet. Okay. So I taught her how to solder. I taught her how shrinking tube works, and she makes her own jewelry. And she comes home every time with like 1 or 2 necklaces, sometimes a bracelet. She made 5 of them last time because we had like sleepovers. Everybody, even the mom, got a piece of jewelry from her, and she's so proud. She makes this, but she learns how to solder. I mean, a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, they learn to solder, and she's enjoying it. She also learned that it's hot, it hurts, it can smell like chicken, and they also know if I get burnt, I have to run to the faucet and keep it under it there, because if I leave it too quickly, it still gets a blister. They learn sometimes the hard way, but they really learn also that they cannot eat their cookie while they're working on with a soldering iron, because it's toxic. And they really know this, and so if other people come around, they actually tell each other, no cookies here because it's toxic. So they know these basic skills, and they take them with them, and they pass them on. So I told about the Harry Potter figurine. Gitte wanted to make like a Harry Potter puppet. I didn't know anything about Blender. I'm more of a FreeCAD guy, technical drawings, technical stuff. But she wanted to make like a puppet. And I think really like a troll or an orc is a little bit too advanced. So I said, let's start with an octopus. And the evening before, I had like a few video tutorials on YouTube, and I saw somebody teaching how to make this. So I taught her, and she made her own octopus. It's this size, but she's so proud about it. She made it, she designed it, put the card into the 3D printer, she pressed the button, she started everything, she did the slicer, she did everything. It's her artwork, and she's proud. She also learned about how 3D printer is slow, how the nozzle is hot, about how the design is actually the biggest part of the work, not the 3D printing, even if it's slow. Now she gets a better understanding of the complexity of designing a 3D figurine. So she also learned quite a few stuff. So these are some success stories. I also had some mistakes. My first project, even before we started with all this, I wanted to make like a drawing robot with my kids, Bluetooth controlled with my smartphone, and but I didn't have anything in my mind yet, so let's figure this out together. Let's design our own case. Let's write the code. Let's make it controllable. It's not my project, it's my kids' project. And this one, after like 3 months, we didn't have anything working yet. Because first we had like the case, and then we had like the wiring, and then we had to solder, and then we had to start coding, but it's in English because it's Arduino. So we said, this is not going to work. We need smaller projects. You need, depending of the age, you really have to have a result. If it's a really small kid, in 15 minutes. If it's a bigger kid, at the end of the day. If it's a teenager, you could even consider having something that has a few phases, and then this might work. But this person must be able to compartmentalize this and see the result at the end of the day. Because if they don't see a result, they will lose interest. My first mistake, don't be too big and don't make a project that you find cool. They have to find it cool. Second mistake, parent one says, let's create a rocket. And she sends me a video about this water rocket, and I say, cool, water rocket, yeah. If she says she can do it, wow, I think this is a cool project. So I put it on the agenda. Water rocket, bring your bottles, bring everything that she said she had to bring. Actually, she meant, let's make a rocket the artistic way. Just draw the wings and put like the angle of 120 degrees and put some weight at the top that has a nice shape. But it was never intended to fly. So what I put on the program was not the same as what the teacher, the instructor was going to give. Kids came with the idea of launching a rocket, and they were disappointed because nothing actually happened. They just created a rocket. It was still a cool project, and it would have been great if I had the communication right the first time and the expectations were different. So put your expectations clear. Don't start this on your own. For a few reasons. This is Johnny. Johnny's a member of our Hackerspace. He's from the first time he said, it's a cool project, I'm gonna help you with this. And we've been doing it together. And different minds have different ideas. One of his projects was like a marble track, and he used all kinds of old capacitors and pieces of scrap tubing, and he made like this really cool project. Completely, I wouldn't have thought about that, but I mean, it's a cool project. But it also means that you're not a single point of failure. I mean, if I can't make it for whatever reason, we don't have to cancel the event. There's somebody backing me up. Even if you don't have to do anything at the space apart from saying hi and keeping an eye on the people. and you add new skills to the people who are present. This is, I think, quite an important one. Thanks, Johnny. A few things I don't have photographs of, I don't have documentation of, and I talked about the marble track. Actually, this one got damaged during Bite Night event. I don't know if you know Bite Night. This is like the FOSDEM party, and this was standing somewhere in the corner, and at the end of Bite Night it was lying somewhere in the corner. So it got damaged. It's a pity. So we didn't have any pictures of the thing when it was in a good state. Then it was taken home by Johnny, and they kind of fixed it there, but I mean, we don't have documentation on this cool project. Take photographs. I mean, as a hackerspace, I think we also tend to document our projects. If you make a cool project, you also put something on the wiki or you put something on your site. Teach your kids this cool skill. I mean, I think as a hackerspace, one of the things we think is important is to share knowledge. The fact that on your birthday parties, you're giving workshops, it's like testimonial that hackerspace is about sharing knowledge. It's not because you're a kid you shouldn't do this. Plan for free time. I mean, I already talked about the limited attention span of kids. Just embed this. I mean, make sure there's playtime for the kids. They can play around, take them outside, let them run a little bit. In our space, we have like a trampoline in the big hallway. Let them jump a little bit. Let them bring their roller skates or whatever is safe in the area where you live. Just keep in mind that otherwise they will become annoying, and it's no fun, nor for you nor for them. Keep their sugar levels good. Don't give them club mate. Hackerspace. For me, this is a point of discussion maybe, so what's the difference between a hackerspace and a makerspace? For me, a hackerspace is about learning stuff by making things, and a makerspace is about making stuff by learning things. So I want to learn something because I want to make something. I want to make something because I want to understand it. Or I want to break something because I want to understand it. But it's a hackerspace. You can break stuff. You can end up with nothing and still have a great project. I mean, if you're in a makerspace, this is maybe a failure. I don't know. Curiosity didn't kill the cat. I think this is an important one. It took her to new places. Just discover stuff, figure things out, let the kids try stuff. I mean, okay, yeah, so sure, a soldering iron is not to make jewelry. So what? Let them do their things. They will take your tools to new places and you will discover new stuff. It's fun. Share knowledge, also as a non-expert. I mean, I taught my kid Blender, and every now and then I also had to say, I don't know, it's new for me too. But this is okay. If they learn this from the start, that we're figuring stuff out together, they will also become that person who says, okay, I know a little bit, but I'll tell you what I know. Because too often I see people just shutting their mouth because he's an expert or she's an expert, and I'm not an expert, so I'm going to shut my mouth. But actually, you're as much an expert sometimes. Allow for this non-expert teaching. This is a concept I love so much in hackerspaces. I created my first 3D print, I created my first KCAD, I created my first PCB, whatever, and I'm going to tell you how I did it. And I'm going to tell you my mistakes, or even better, I want to learn how to work with KiCad. Who else wants to learn KiCad? Come on, let's do it together. And you put like 4 dates and you learn this project. Non-expert teaching. And not knowing is great too. I mean, the assumption that you always have to know stuff, I think this is a really important one in the hackerspace. We should take this to our kids too. Not knowing is just as great. So, we need a cat because it's a talk. Any questions?
Yes, I have questions.
Yes?
It wasn't quite clear from your presentation whether these activities are these aimed at the kids of members, or is this more like outreach for the space, like, yeah?
So it started as a homeschooling project. So I announced these events on the homeschooling pages on Facebook. There are like a homeschooling community with like a few thousand parents with kids homeschooling, but over the whole of Belgium. So I mean, they won't come from Ostende or from Limburg to Brussels just to touch a soldering iron. So the kids, the people from the area sometimes come. So non-members, but also members that do. It's not really as an outreach to reach new members, but it's like, okay, so we have this place, and I know a lot of parents don't have the tools, but they would really think it cool to try stuff with their kids. Come over. We have some tools. It's that. Yeah? Is that an answer?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And accidentally, you might end up having like a dad or a mom becoming a member too. But that's welcome.
If you have teenage workshops, how do you like advertise them to teenagers? Because here it's like, if you're 15, please bring your parents the first time and then you can just come by whenever you want.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't really actively promote our things for teenagers.
We don't either. Well, I have, before the COVID, well, sometimes the bigger brother of one of the kids who came to the Hackerspace came too, and then they worked on their little own Arduino project. And this was fun because then they had somebody to ask stuff. And so, but I mean, these events in our space, they're not big. I mean, we have like 5, 6 children. It's enough. It's really easy to manage. It's you don't have to have big advertising because just these small groups make that they have a good time. Because if you have 20 kids in the Hackerspace, then you really have to have classroom discipline, and it makes it less fun.
Yes.
Okay.
And what about insurance and that kind of things? Any special?
We don't have a special insurance in the sense that we already have Tech Tuesdays where everybody, also non-members, are welcome. And we expect every kid to be supervised by their own parents. So this is also important for us. So this has been there from the start. It's not, we are going to be the babysit for the kids. We are not going to give workshops to the kids. We are going to accommodate a space for parents with their kids. This is a really big distinction, and it's been there from the start, and I think it's really important because it's not like hackers are the greatest youth leaders. But even sometimes they are, but I mean, this is a false assumption. We don't know the kids, and it's really hard to teach soldering to 5 kids at the same time. You really need a parent per kid if you want to do that kind of stuff. Okay?
Your talk was called like, why the fuck would you bring your kids? Is there ever comment about language that some parents think that you have to watch your language if kids are around?
No, it was just an eye catcher. It was a joke.
Yeah.
I mean, we had like WTF is like the classic. What the fuck's going on here? It was just a pun on that one.
But you do have sometimes non-child-friendly language in the space. How do you handle that? Do you try to just notify everybody there's kids in the space?
Well, yes, we have an agenda on the website. Also, I put like announcements on the mailing list on the Facebook page a few days beforehand. So here comes the same golden rule again. Just be, if you can be excellent, at least be decent. I mean, if you know there's going to be a kids workshop, don't claim the 3D printer for 72 hours. If you know there's going to be a kids workshop, don't have like a beer party the evening before and don't clean up. Okay, have a beer party, but clean up and make sure it's aired a little bit, and just keep it in mind, be decent, and or even be excellent. That's even better. Even better. At the end, just a few credits because I had some Creative Commons pictures, and thanks for having those. Okay, here you go.
Can you go through right?
No.